Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Talk with Almost PhD Ambi. That's me. So, first things first, I need y'all to stop what y'all doing right now. Take out y'all phones, and I want you to like this video. I want you to comment on this video, and I want you to subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much. And then I want you all to please also go to Instagram right now and follow me at underscore Amberina. That's underscore AMBERINAA. My editor will put that right here. And then I want you to also follow me at TikTok and also on YouTube at Almost PhD Ambi. My editor will put that right there for me. Thanks so much. All right, let's go ahead and get into the good stuff. Last week, we were talking about identity just as far as adolescence and teenage years. I thank you all so much for sticking in there with me just as we've been talking about identity with the kiddos. I know that it's been a lot. And for those of you that don't have any children, you don't have any siblings, you might be an only child, you probably don't even like kids. I know it may have been difficult, but you all stuck in there with me, and I thank you so much for that. I really did get a lot of positive feedback just as it pertains to identity within childhood, within adolescence, within teenage years. Everyone has been a child once. And I'm really just sure that there was something that everyone could really resonate to. Also, I did have a lot of parents reach out to me, a lot of caregivers, a lot of fun aunts and uncles, like me. And I also had a lot of teachers, a lot of mentors reach out to me when it came to just different tips, tricks, different things that they were starting to notice when it came to their children, different things that they were noticing when it came to their adolescents, their teenagers, and they just really were not necessarily thanking me. Again, I am not a parent. This is not a parenting podcast. It is a psychology podcast. Clock that. Really thanking me as far as being able to look at the matriculation of identity throughout the lifespan in general. Enough of that. We are going to today get into identity and what that looks like in adulthood. And so I know that that is just something that's really so important, given that really the majority of my audience is adult. And I know that a lot of people may definitely think I'm an adult. I already know who it is that I am. I don't really need to think about my identity anymore. Like, it's not even important to me anymore. Identity within adulthood is actually one of the most important and one of the most crucial steps when it comes to identity, specifically within today's day and age. I told you all, I hate to get so socio-political. It's something that I have to do. I feel like it is my due diligence. What is going on within our social climate today? What is going on within our political climate today? Identity within, within our country is definitely very important. A little sidebar. I am a clinician in training. I do abide by an ethics board. I do abide by ethics rules, laws, regulations, and I do plan on continuing to abide by ethics rules, laws, regulations. Yay for good practice. Never are you all going to hear me say my diagnostic impressions or my diagnostic opinions about specific social figures or celebrities or someone that's important or things of that sort, or never will I give identifying information. At the same time, you all can put two and two together and make four. I digress. We can go ahead and move on. When we think about different people that we may have seen growing up, different people that we may have been watching from when we were younger, seeing how they may have started to kind of deteriorate mentally or emotionally or even physically. A lot of different assumptions can be made. where did their identity maybe go wrong, or what is their identity? What are they maybe thinking about themselves? That is something that we will be looking into today, and it's something that we'll be analyzing today as well. Specifically, when it comes to early adulthood years, which Dr. Google says that early adulthood is from 20 to 40 years old. I don't want no smoke. It's not me, it's Dr. Google. If you all agree with it, great. If you don't, then you can go ahead and hit up them. Specifically looking within that age range, this is something that is very important. It is a time where we may be starting to make very meaningful relationships. And not to say that we didn't have meaningful relationships previously, but we're really probably starting to move in with people. We're starting to finally get married to certain people. We're starting to have children with certain people. This is where a lot of those relationships are going to actually begin to define us as well as our social roles. We're going to start to get into careers that are going to be a lot more settling for us as well. We're going to end up becoming into our professional careers. So it's going to be a transition from a job into a professional career. That's going to be very important as well. Just because you're an adult, it doesn't mean that you can't continue to still be doing hobbies and activities that you find interesting. These will be those hobbies and activities that you actually find yourself starting to really set a routine with. Is going to be a bit more set in stone for you and a bit more of a solid identity and less of something that's exploratory. When I was talking about this last week with teenager identity, they're exploring, they're kind of going through those social comparisons and trying on those different hats. When they are doing this, as far as like trying on different clothing or trying out different lingo and phrases, hanging out with different people, that's how they are trying out their different social identities. For adults, this is how we actually try out our different social identities. It's us really getting into these meaningful relationships. It's us really getting settled into our careers. It's us really starting to create a life that is meaningful and purposeful for us. And that's something that starts to create that identity. Going back to social figures, I won't name drop as something that is against me. I'm beyond that. When we just think about different social figures that we may have watched, a lot of the times these were individuals that were performing from very young ages, and they may have had an extreme pressure to perform from maybe a toddler stage, and whether that pressure was from their parents, from their managers, from producers, whatever different external influences those were. That was always placed on them. And if you start to think about the earlier episodes that I made, this is where the formation of their identity is going to be extremely important. Thinking about my earlier episode of self identity and core beliefs, thinking of a social figure, or really just anyone for that matter, right? It doesn't have to be someone who was extremely important. It can be someone that we all know, because I'm sure that we've all met someone who has been through something very difficult in life and they've ended up maybe in sort of a rough patch. So, thinking about that self identity and those core beliefs. The core beliefs are how you feel about yourself, how you feel about others, and then how you feel about the world. And then your core beliefs end up influencing your cognitive triad. So, your cognitive triad is how your thoughts, your emotions, and then your behaviors are all intercorrelated with one another. For someone who has extreme pressure to perform, or they feel like they can't authentically be themselves, or they have just really these negative core beliefs about themselves, they're also going to have a negative cognitive triad. They're going to have negative automatic thoughts. they're going to have negative emotions, and then more than likely, they're going to have negative or maladaptive coping behaviors or just behaviors in general. After that, the next episode, when I was talking about identity within childhood and how I made a metaphor of that within the id complex. A child is trying to authentically be themselves, and they're constantly getting pushback from some kind of external influence, which would typically be that super ego or that parental figure. They just would basically feel as though they cannot always be themselves. Thinking of social figures, or whether it's just, someone that you know, and they're constantly getting shut down when they're trying to be their authentic selves, they are going to begin to have a lot of questions about who they actually are. Because every time that they are trying to express themselves, they are constantly getting pushback, they're constantly getting shut down, they're constantly getting told, no, you need to act like this, you should be wearing this, you actually should be saying this. It's always just something else that is completely contradictory to what they actually want to do. That's where that role confusion begins to come in as far as Eric Erickson's psychosocial stages. And it does create a lot of confusion. Keep that in mind as well. My episode last week, identity within adolescence and then teenage years. And we specifically spoke about the identity statuses and adolescents and teenagers being able to kind of explore, and then also if they might have external pressure to perform. If specific individuals are constantly getting all of this pressure to perform, if they are not able to really explore what it is that they want to do, then essentially they're stuck in that foreclosure identity status. This can end up creating this rigidity where they aren't really able to kind of see what it is that they like. They aren't able to see what it is that they're interested in. They are very confused about what it is that they want to do. They don't know what it is that they want to do. And even if they end up seeing what it is that they want to do, they might actually end up developing some resentment towards whatever external figures giving them all of that pushback when they were trying to explore in the first place. And this is really the time when identity begins to fall apart the most for many children, teenagers, and then adults. And the reason why I bring this up is because life doesn't just stop. You have to continue to move on with your life. And this is when I end up seeing most people in my office or in my chair thinking about the after effects that all of this can end up having on individuals later on in adulthood when they are not able to fully not only just express themselves, but when they are not able to really just develop that solid sense of self or identity. They end up really developing this sense of resentment. It may not only end up being towards parents, it can also end up being towards different people who may have put that pressure on them to perform, different people who may have given them that pushback that they weren't necessarily expecting, or that they were getting put on them to kind of be put in this facade or in this box to pretend. And it can really be projected onto a lot of different people. Also, I end up seeing a lot of negative emotions. And the negative emotions can end up being sadness, anger. These can end up really going more so into depression, anxiety. And this is when we end up seeing the development of more of those mental health disorders. And it can be something as minor as anxiety or depression, all the way to our more severe mental illnesses, such as schizoaffective or even bipolar disorder, or even the personality disorders. And then we see the maladaptive coping mechanisms, the substance abuse disorder, alcohol abuse disorder, eating disorders, some of those obsessive compulsive disorders. And that's really just when an individual no longer wants to feel, they want to feel that numbness, they want to avoid really just having to sit with their thoughts, sit with any kind of negative emotion. It's something that seems so minor that can end up being so extreme. I end up seeing this all of the time. And this ends up matriculating itself into what we see as our quarter life crises or our midlife crises. This is just really a fancy way of saying this is how people work on adjusting or dealing with difficult times within their lives. And I mean, I feel like it's something that a lot more people have started to go through these days. I feel like I have a quarter life crisis every 6 months since I've been in my 20s. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah, so it's something that is a lot more common. Also, of course, everyone is different. Not everyone is going to experience some kind of quarter life crisis or midlife crisis. A lot of people may be different when it comes to how they handle different things that they're going through. And that can be dependent on genetics, personality traits. Some people just have better adaptive coping mechanisms than others. It is something that is also just a lot more common, especially in today's day and age. And it's something that we're starting to see a lot more openly as well, especially because of social media. And that's something that I had brought up previously as well, just because it is something that is shared just so much more openly, whether you want to see it or not. Moving from early adulthood to more so like midlife and then even like geriatric years, we start to maybe think less about only our relationship and we start to really think about major shifts within our identity. Our relationships may be stable, our careers may be stable, but then we really start to think about okay, what is it that I am contributing to society? What legacy am I going to leave behind within this world? And so, this is where our purpose in society becomes imperative. You may want to consider that different mental health disorders are a lot higher when it comes to midlife and then also geriatric years. So, yes, granted, alcohol use disorders, substance use disorders may be the highest when it comes to early adulthood and midlife and geriatric years. Suicide rates are actually the highest amongst this population. And understandably so when it comes to their depression rates being the highest, as well as hopelessness, anxiety rates. And when you look at the different things that are going on in their life, all of those are correlated. As well as this particular generation, not really believing completely in mental health and going out to get help for mental health. But it is not all bad. There is a chance to reinvent yourself, even when it comes to the geriatric population. And so this brings us to the possible selves concepts, which was created by Marcus and Nurius. It is a cognitive bridge between your self concept and your motivation and behavior. You look at who you want to be, and you also look at who it is that you already are. So you have your hoped self, so that is who it is that you would like to become. You have your expected self, that is who it is that you see yourself becoming. And then you have your feared self, and that is who it is that you are afraid of becoming. And so you have a motivational anchor that basically pulls or pushes you towards different choices, decisions, habits, or even identities that may align with your vision. These even sustain your motivation during certain phases where you might find yourself uncertain or stagnant. And this can help regulate your behavior during different phases where you might be coping with different stages of loss, such as retirement or relocation, or even loss of a relationship. The concept of possible selves also help protect your sense of identity as well as help guide you. It is the idea that adulthood identity is an ongoing negotiation between your current selves and again who it is that you want to be. For instance, when you think about who you wanted to be at 25 years old, I definitely thought that by 25 I was going to be married, going to have at least one child, maybe not necessarily going to be like in my dream career, but definitely going to be in a career at least. And look at me now. Don't have any of that. Not even in my dream city. It's just funny how things work out, isn't it? The idea of the possible selves concept is the fact that you can still be working towards what it is that you are striving to be. For me, it's me continuing to work towards what it is that I would like to be by 30, as well as being able to rewrite your narrative. And rewriting your narrative is extremely important for marginalized communities. And when I say marginalized communities, I mean individuals of all different types of minority backgrounds. So, gender, race, sexual orientation, disability status, socioeconomic status, et cetera, et cetera. This goes back to what I had spoken about when I did speak about self identity and specifically core beliefs. When you are defining yourself, saying exactly who it is that you think you are, giving people your perception of yourself, who is it going to be that is typically going to give you pushback about your perception of yourself? That majority demographic or that majority group. It is extremely important for marginalized populations to be able to rewrite their own narratives or just to be able to write their narratives in general. That is something that is very powerful for us. And so there is an exercise that I would want for all of you to do with me right now. So if you're listening, you can do this with me. If you're watching, obviously you can do this with me. And go ahead and take out a piece of paper. You can do this on your phone. You can say it out loud. It's, of course, completely up to you. But I would like for you all to think of your hoped for self. So, your hoped for self, it can be someone who you would like to think of being in maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. Of course, it's going to look different for different people. Someone that you see yourself being in the next 5 to 10 years shouldn't take you too long, hopefully. Go ahead and do that. Write that down, say it out loud, type it, whatever it is that you have to do. Thinking of your hoped for self, what is one thing that is different from your hoped for self that is different from your current self right now? Write that down, say it out loud, type it, whatever it is that you have to do. One thing that is different from your hoped for self, 5, 10 years, that is different from your current self. Now, I want you all to think of your feared self. Your feared self is someone that you are afraid of becoming, someone you do not want to become. For a lot of people, sometimes this ends up being our parents, or it can be someone that we may have been with in the past, just someone you do not want to be at all. Again, write it down, type it, say it out loud, whatever you have to do. And what is one habit that you currently possess that is helping you further push yourself away from that feared self? What is one habit that you currently have that is helping you further push yourself away from that feared self? Write it down, say it out loud, type it out, whatever you have to do. With these possible selves, or the possible selves concept, it's a way of quote unquote reinventing yourself. So that is an exercise that you all can do. The main key takeaways for this episode: remembering that identity is going to be fluid. It's not just going to stop in adolescence or childhood or teenage years. You are going to continue to definitely find yourself evolving and evolving even in adulthood, and definitely embrace that. When it comes to identity in adulthood, everything that you acquired from your entire life is a part of you now. Not to say that if there were a whole bunch of negative things, to embrace that, but at the same time, all of that has also contributed to the individual that you are now. So taking all of that in, trying to definitely find the strength in everything it is that you've been through. And then lastly, really just the possible selves concept, always remembering that you will be able to continue to reinvent yourself. So, yeah. Thank you all again so much for joining me for another episode. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.